repeat battle for first and second places, and what a battle this has been. These two guys really know how to throw these big TVRs about. Peter Wheeler getting on with a job. And Wheeler there with 22 right on his tail. Ian Flux. On Flux, a man with bags of experience, bags of ability, much further back than I'm sure Ian Flux would ever want to be. Determined to try and find a way past. And he's found one, nice and clean. He's through on the inside. Peter didn't fight that one. Here come the two leaders. Huge effort by Blower. 34. Matthew Doman about to be lapped by this pair. But Kent has a little bit more of an advantage now over Blower, can take his time. There's Flux. Peter Wheeler about to be attacked by Cresswell, who's setting about it in a very ungentlemanly fashion. Meanwhile, Martin Kress returns from making his latest sandcastle to be lapped by the leaders. Kress carrying on. Here come the leaders. There comes the flag. Once again, it's Kent. 34 was the man they were coming up to lap, Matthew Doman, but it didn't happen. And John Kent wins again. Kent the winner from Colin Blower, usually me. Breton, Flux and Wheeler, that's the top six in the TVRs after Brands. Was it tough, John Kent?
Yeah, it was very, very different in the cockpit. The track was much better, so this time we had a proper race. A bit of a lottery the first race, but this was second one was a cracker. I love that.
70-point lead for Kent. Then it's Blower, and behind him Cole, Short, Wheeler and Ian Flux coming up. Round 6 of the TVR Tuscan Challenge from Spa-Francorchamps, and the track dried up, and I'm joined by Ben Samuelson. Ben, it looks to me as if you've got a pretty competitive race here.
It should be absolutely spectacular. We've got some people who've raced here before, but most haven't. Ian Flux, Martin Short, John Williams have raced here before, should have the advantage, but then again, John Kent learns the tracks very quickly indeed.
Well, as you can see, Ian Flux fastest in practice. We're aboard Gavin Cooper's car and they're away already. And you can see how tight that is. And contact there.
That's Nick Cresswell and Bob Sands' contact between the two there, but they seem to be still going. They have back hanging off Nick Cresswell's car and a lot of damage on the back, on the front of Bob Sands' car there.
Yes, Bob Sands looks to me as if he's not going to be long for this race. Here's Cresswell. And you can see the bonnet on that car is leaping about a bit too. John Kent in the lead, as we'd rather expected, the man who's dominated this championship, trying to dominate this race, but on the inside there, that was a daring manoeuvre that nearly came off. Indeed, he did come off, and Flux leads. Ian Flux in the lead, Kent in second place. And you can see how close this is as Kent comes back at Flux. Awfully wide out of there. Down a place goes number 2, Rod Gretton. And here we go back to that start, and you can see what happened. There's the contact between the two cars, and you can see the damage. And I fear that both of them might actually retire as a result of that. Ian Flux in the lead. Beautifully under control. A lot of experience, a lot of ability. And Fluxy, I would think, coming into his own here, Ben.
Absolutely. He's not had the most competitive of cars so far this season, but Flux knows the circuit very well, as does that man. Number 88, Martin Short, having a go, having a look at Steve Cole, is in second place, but no, still alongside, and there's Bob Sands. Doesn't look like his race is going to last any longer.
Bob Sands with a lot of damage to the front of that car, but look at the lead that Flux has got. Holding on behind there, Steve Cole, but Cole, I think, under heavy pressure.
We're on board with Nick Cresswell here, looking ahead to the battle between John Kent and Martin Short.
And John Kent, in fact, curiously restrained here at Spa. Desperately trying to get through there. You can see the headlights behind Flux as he comes through. This new AGP engine sees these cars achieving a maximum of what on the straight, Ben?
They're probably hitting 175, 180 miles per hour at the fastest spots at Spa Circuit.
So that's quite a wake-up time. You aren't certainly going to be sitting behind the wheel of that without knowing what you're doing. battle still going on, but the cars spacing themselves out a bit here. This is very much a driver's circuit. It's a difficult circuit.
That's Steve Cole off in a big way.
Steve Cole, a very big accident indeed there.
We're looking at John Reed going through there, manager of the Works Racing team.
And not very often do you get Cole make a mistake, which gives you an indication of just how difficult this circuit can be.
Oh, that's Matt Doman. Spins, but it looks like he's going to be able to restart.
Yes, he does. Doesn't lose a lot of time as a result of that, strangely enough. Simon Toyne. Haven't been aboard with him before.
And we're looking at Jean-Francois Bill from Paris, who travels over on his motorbike from Paris every time for each Tuscan race.
And you can see the remains there of Steve Cole's car. I think you're going to have a nice job there, I think, coming up, Ben.
Yes, I think there'll be a little bit of work to do on Steve Cole's car. Looked like a big one, but it looks like Steve is all right.
Chairman Peter Wheeler slowing, being passed there, and Peter Wheeler, it would appear, out of the race. If there are any experimental bits, Peter's perhaps the man to test them. You can see the battle here. Martin Short anxious to try and close that gap between himself and Ian Flux. And the cars have definitely spread themselves out. We're looking at the battle for 4th, 5th and 6th. Colin Blower right behind Blower and hanging on to him well there, Nick Cresswell. And then chasing Cresswell down, Rod Gretton. Aboard Cresswell, out of that little left-hand kink that has caught so many drivers out in the past. And whoops! Well, gets it pointing the right way very quickly. Rod Gretton didn't lose much time there and wouldn't have lost as much time as he has if he kept the engine running.
Yeah, Rod Gretton had been having a magnificent race, but look at that, Martin Short takes the lead from Ian Flux. Martin Short leads his first Tuscan race.
So Short there, coming past on the straight. I don't know whether Flux he was dreaming or whether he might have a problem.
I think looks like he might have a problem. When the car's at its fastest there, it looks like Flux has just not got it there, and we're on board with Simon Toyne again, looking ahead at John Reed.
Reed being pressured, Reed being passed. Or is he? It's a brave place to do it.
Of course, Simon Toyne is another driver who has raced at Spa-Francorchamps before in the Ferraris.
And he certainly made a nice clean job of that as we watch this battle for the lead. Flux, having lost it, wants it back again.
Not a great one for giving up, is Flux. I don't think we're going to see him doing anything but pressuring very hard indeed.
Cresswell. Wheels pointing in a rather different direction to that which you'd expect them to. But that was an excessive zeal with the right foot. These AJP engines now are really developing power, but the surprising thing, not surprising I suppose if you're TVR, is that they've got tremendous reliability. When you're really pushing an engine hard like this at high revs all the time, remarkable performance by not just the cars but by the engineers who developed this engine.
Absolutely, that's Martin Short there in the Station Hill garage car. A little bit sideways on the exit, but not enough so that Flux can capitalise on it.
And Flux would desperately like to come by.
We're on board with Gavin Cooper here. Oh! No, I don't think he wanted to do that.
I don't think he's any idea what he did do.
But he restarts back on with the race, says Gavin.
May have been that he missed a gear bend, but whatever it was a pretty awful piece of finishing to a good drive, which I think is going to see him out of the race, frankly. You can see the problems that he's got.
A lot of damage on that car.
And I don't think it's confined to the bodywork, because if you look underneath, there are various bits hanging off. That might be what's left of a headlight.
Looking at Rod Gretton again there.
Well, he's recovered from that moment. He's up and past and trying to pull away.
And that's John Williams behind him. And we look at Gavin's moment again there.
Well, I'm still not sure what he did, except he overdid it coming in, clipped the curb, clipped the tyres. That's what did the damage to the front of the car. And everybody missed him. Lassos, under braking. The gap closes. Under power. The gap remains the same, but then better traction, I think, for the car in front because he came out more cleanly. No question about it, Martin Short seemingly has learned the trick of driving TVRs very quickly. Bear in mind, he had his first race with these cars at the very end of last year, and that was a puff of smoke, which I think was a tyre. As here is Cresswell. Oh dear, that's awfully untidy, and any chance you had, Sunshine, of catching the guy in front, I think you can forget right now. Short. Nicely controlled, using all the available road, but none of the curbs.
Of course, John Kent there, never having actually driven round Spa-Francorchamps in the dry before. And so it's a pretty impressive performance, and it looks like Colin Blower is catching him. What do you think, Neville?
I think he is. I think it's a pretty lacklustre performance too by John Kent, who's dominated this championship when he's been at home on the circuits that he knows, but he's really been caught out here a bit.
And that's Martin Stewart, first race for him with the AJP engine in, catching up Simon Toyne, and Bob Sands there a lap behind, having rejoined.
Yes, Bob Sands getting back into the contest, but without any hope of real success. Up towards La Source. This is the last lap. In swings, Martin Short puts the power down now with a very respectable lead indeed. Fluxy well back in second place. The flag is out. Short wins. Flux finishes in second place. John Kent is going to come through to finish in third. Here we see the top six. Blower fourth, Cresswell and Gretton. Kent will retain his lead in the championship, but Short will be a very happy man and is on the podium. There he is, right in the middle. Watched by his sponsor's young son, a very proud young man, John Kent on the right of your picture, Ian Flux on the left of your picture. And Kent, obviously, is still retaining his lead in the championship, but Colin Blower up with a good finish there, 2.57. Martin Short, third place now, then Cole, Flux and Cresswell. That's the top six in the TVRs. Castle Combe welcomes the TVR Tuscan Challenge for the second time in 1995. And John Kent, straight in his third place, perhaps disappointing leader of the championship, is up there on the front row as expected in pole position. And next to him, Ian Flux, a man with a mission and a lot to prove. On the second row of the grid, certainly a chance for Gavin Cooper to sell a few TVRs if he goes well today. And Jason Yeomans returns to the championship after what's been a little bit of a sabbatical. Martin Short back in fifth place, disappointing, and then Steve Cole. I'm joined by Ben Samuelson as down go the tails, up come the fronts, and away they go, and a great start by Flux. Kent vying with him as they come up towards the first corner. Out of it they go. We've got a new car this week for Martin Crass. I wonder what he'll do with that, Ben.
I should have thought he'll do something quite impressive as they come through, and Steve Cole's got a magnificent start from sixth on the grid and up to third.
Yes, and Cole went well here the last time I seem to recall, but Kent in charge with right behind him Flux as they come towards us. Cole there hanging on to third place, and up to fourth Jason Yeomans, as you might expect. Very competitive here. Cole holding on to third place as Flux tries and hardly managed to make any impression there at all. And Cole making that car very wide, Ben.
Yes, indeed, and we've got Jason Yeomans trying very hard behind him, but Martin Short has got past Gavin Cooper. So we're going to see him on a bit of a charge now, I reckon, as they come down. John Kent leading, but Ian Flux holding on very tight indeed, and Steve Cole behind there.
On the back of the group, it's Colin Blower in number 5. Blower has been more and more competitive every time out with this car. Seems to have settled very nicely with it now. Has it sorted to his liking handling-wise. Looks at the inside there. And I think it's got up on the long side. Yes, has got a long side. Yeomans.
And that's Jean-Francois Beale having had a spin, but rejoins there.
So Beale has his spin. We are watching that battle that's going on with fourth place now having changed. Yeoman dropped back to fifth. And you can see Martin Short back there in about seventh place at the moment.
And Jean-Francois Beale has a second French Revolution.
Well, it'll be the Bastille next time out for him. Already catching up with a slower car there, which is undoubtedly going to cause a bit of fun. This very stern battle that's going on with Flux trying every way, which way but lose.
And I think Colin Blower is tighter than ever behind. And there we see Martin Short getting past Nick Cresswell.
Yes, Cresswell dropping back rather than going forward. The man they're about to pass, John Ravenscroft, but he'll want a complete redesign after this. You don't like being lapped?
No, I don't think he will at all.
The man behind the design of the car, the engine, the installation, not happy at the moment. And actually now on the road there, sitting between the battle for first and second and everybody else is a hard charging Colin Blower up to third and really meaning it.
There we see Martin Krass passing Peter Wheeler, and if John Ravenscroft didn't like being lapped, Peter won't like being passed by Martin Krass, who just bought a new car off the factory.
Well, probably the other one had got beyond repair the number of times that Martin's been off. Don't believe that, actually. It's a tough car, the TVR. In fact, they do rebuild them. And whoops, we've got somebody else with a problem here. That's number 3, Steve Cole. And Cole looking to me to be out of the contest, as Giles Cooper too has a problem, having thrown it at the scenery, done no harm, and leaving black lines all the way up the road. But here's that battle for first and second, with third man closing in all the time. Colin Blower now on equal terms with these three.
Well, Colin Blower's setup on his car really works towards the end of the race, so we'll see Colin coming even stronger as the race continues.
Fluxy there took a wide line in, and now trying to make his effort to get alongside, but it's not as easy as all that. Has to tuck back in again, almost finds that Blur had taken his place. Bottoming out of the bit, kicking up the dust. Here's Kent, the front end didn't want to grip immediately. And up comes Blur on the inside there. And Flux suddenly finds that what was second is now third and wonders why.
There's Steve Cole rejoining, but he's going to be right down the field, so I don't think we'll be seeing much more of him.
The first season for this new AJP engine, and it's proving to be very reliable, very powerful, and very strong, as Fluxy seems to have a problem and drops back. And Flux back to fourth. And that car seemingly might have lost a gear or something. It certainly isn't very happy.
And now we have a replay of George Purdy in his 5th ever TVR race, having a look down the inside of John McQuilkin, not finding that there's room, and off goes John. Looks like George managed to carry on though.
Yes, John, in fact, I think has got a bit of body damage there, but nothing much else. As now, John Kent gets no rest at all from the motor trader. The rest homeowner and the motor trader. What a combination. Quite a gap now before we get third man through, all on his own, Jason Yeomans.
But look at that gap, it's tight, and they're coming past the back markers now.
Yeah, the queue of cars there, they're having to scythe their way through. Quite amazing. Among them, Jean-Francois Bale there, the Frenchman, threatened with the Bastille earlier on. Whoops, he's in front there of Blower, and that, in fact, has spoiled what could otherwise have been a very good race, because Blower was right up there, found himself impeded, and that's lost him a lot of ground.
Jean-Francois Beale now moves out of the way, and Colin Blower looks like he'll be able to get through at the end there.
Well, what he did actually was he eased off again, you saw, because of that car that's behind the barrier there, which looked to be like Ravenscroft.
And I suppose as the designer of the car and the engine, if anyone knows what went wrong, he will.
Well, undoubtedly, as far as Colin Blower is concerned, that ease has lost him the chance of worrying at Kent. He's still within striking distance. Kent can't afford to make a mistake, but he's lost sufficient ground there, really, because he's just found out he's got a 10-second penalty, so he's not going to make a race of it as they come up to the last corner on the last lap, having been really the class of the battle, these two. It's Kent the winner, but Yeomans now up to second place as a result of that penalty. Then Martin Short, Nick Creswell, Colin Blower finishing 5th in spite of that 10-second penalty, and Gavin Cooper. You join us for race 2 with the grid positions decided by the previous race. It's Kent and Yeomans on the front row as they get away. Short and Creswell on the second row, and Blower with it all to do. And Steve Cole with the onboard camera here, making place after a pit stop in the previous race, and has given himself quite a task, but he's getting on with it.
Nick Creswell with a good start as well, and up into second place. Martin Short has the inside line, looks like he'll have it from Jason Yeomans.
And don't forget Ian Flux, who went so well. There's Cole, up another place there. We were saying Ian Flux, who went so well, had problems, dropped back, so he's going to be another man to keep an eye to in this. But look at the way Cole is going past one car after another. That's number 4, Colin Waterhouse, who suffers, loses the place there. Kent in the lead. Wide line in, Short in second place. And that looked like Blower in third place. We'll have to check on that one in a moment or two.
No, that was Nick Cresswell in third place, and Martin Short indeed had just overtaken him.
So here is old King Cole. You don't like me saying that, do you? But I always think it was that. The moustache bristling in the moonlight, or sunlight in this case. Up another place. And you can see how well the TVRs ride the bumpy circuit here at Castle Combe, which can deflect a car so easily compared to anything else here at Combe. You'll see the difference. Martin Krass, well, this is the first time out for a brand new car, and Martin so far has behaved himself exemplary.
Martin Krass having a very good race. Shows that if you give him the kit, he can do rather well with it.
Well, he's certainly done well with this one. Short, trying oh so hard to get through. Blower still stymied by the traffic. Cole,
and look at that.
Gaps.
There's a problem ahead. It's a couple of cars off there in the front there. You saw them going off.
Yes, we didn't see who it was. All we saw was the cloud of chalky dust here because it's a very dry day here at Castle Combe.
There's Gavin Cooper going through on his own, so it must have been Martin Stewart and Bob Sands.
Well, that settles that, and it also settled there for a moment or two that Martin Short, who was trying desperately to find an inside line there, couldn't get past Kent. Let's look again in replay and see if we can see what happens.
There's Bob Sands getting sideways. Martin Stewart goes out to try and miss him, has nowhere to go.
Now they take each other off into the barrier. TVR spares department rub their hands with glee, I've no doubt, as John Kent goes through still with about 2 cars' lengths.